So yeah, that's what I do. I make some stuff. The most common thing that I make things from is Plastizote foam, EVA foam, and PET clear plastic. They're glued or heat molded into place. However, if you're a beginner looking to go into props, these are a bit trial by fire. They're very expensive. Also, if you're Norwegian, hard to get a hold of a lot of the time. So we're going to talk about simple things to get people started, really. And I'll do a Q&A at the end. If anyone wants to talk to me about how I'd go about doing something or any advice for specific props, feel free. I also, if people are curious, I have this little sample book with some of the foams and stuff I use for my thing, which means that if you poke it a bit, you may be able to find a Norwegian equivalent just basically by touch. That's stuff called Plastizote. This is EVA foam. It's very similar to craft foam. You buy it in little sheets from hobby stores. This is a PVC foam board, which is very useful. It's used for making signs kind of all around the world. If you have like a sign for a shop or anything like that, it tends to be made from this because it's very lightweight but waterproof. So you may be able to find a good source for that. And this is just different sort of textures, so if I just pass that around. Right, some basic equipment to get you started with any kind of prop making. Good scissors. In my house I have, this Christmas I asked all my friends, because I'm very hard to buy for, because if I want something I'll just buy it myself. I said I would like scissors this year, and everyone's been like, no, you must be joking. You can't want scissors. I'm like, no, buy me scissors. That's all I desire this year. I got 11 pairs of scissors this year. It was the best Christmas ever. I have fabric scissors, I have scissors for cutting foam, I have scissors for cutting foam which have glue on. What I tend to do is I have a really nice set of scissors. When they start to go blunt, they go down the tier as to what I'll use to cut them with. And then they get the really crap ones that end up in the kitchen for cutting bacon. Yes. Slice bacon with scissors. That's how we do it in England. Right, craft knife. The best thing to do, I find, is the little click-out knives that you can snap off, just because... Sorry, what?
I believe it's called tapetseringskniv.
Could you say it loudly?
Tapetseringskniv.
Tapetseringskniv?
Yeah, tapetseringskniv.
Was that awful?
It's called after wallpaper.
Oh, is it normally used for making wallpaper? Well, yeah,
often.
People use it to cut wallpaper and things like that. But yeah, it's just, you can use little scalpels which you can buy in craft stores, but I don't know, I tend to not like scalpels. They, like needles, they kind of make my back twitch. So I find the snap-off blades are really quite good, just because you can keep them sharp all the time, so, and they're pretty inexpensive. Pens that work, really important. I find that the more pens I have, the more I lose them, so I keep one biro pen and one pencil in my room, and I always know where it is. As a basic bit of advice, which is sort of in the do as I say, not as I do thing, try and keep your workspace as tidy as possible. Nothing sucks more than, oh, I'm just going to glue that to that, and then you just land in another part of your project. So as you go, try and tidy up. It's difficult, because you'll be like, no, I'm going to make it and make all of the things, and it just goes everywhere, and I've lost bits and all this kind of stuff. So keeping tidy and making sure you clean up as you go and keep your workspace clear is very important. Ruler and a tape measure. Don't cut straight lines without a ruler. Basic things. I know you think it looks straight, but it won't be straight. Glue guns. You can buy these from sort of craft shops and things like that. You normally get the tiny little glue guns and things like that. I recommend, if you know you're going to be using a glue gun a lot, to look into getting, I think the best brand for them is a Bosch glue gun. You can find these hardware stores and also online, which I'm assuming you're anime fans, you must have the internet. You can buy more industrial sized glue guns, which are only about 20 quid, so about 200 kroner, which take glue sticks which are this fat and that long. So yeah, I know, caught a fish this big. They're really useful because it's not tiny little glue sticks. The other one is the little glue guns. The trigger on them tends to break. That's normally the first thing that goes on the cheaper models. I burnt myself very badly quite early on in cosplay because I had a glue gun which broke on me, so it wasn't feeding the glue through. So I took the back of the glue stick and pushed it down, so all of the molten glue, which had been heating up and reheating inside of the chamber, fell on my leg. So, yeah, who has had a hot glue burn in their life? Hands, yeah. Hot glue, not fun. If you can, do things near a bathroom. If you do get hot glue on your hand, don't try and pry it off. You just got to get it into cold water as quickly as possible. They really hurt, don't they? The sort of blistering effect under the skin, yeah. So, a bit of advice, be careful, give yourself enough time to do things. This is another case of do as I say, not as I do, because some of my best work has been the night before. You know, the horrific night before when you're crouching to get through to a costume that you need for tomorrow and you haven't tried it on yet, you don't even know if it fits you, but you've got to make it. Sometimes it's best to sit back and be like, you know what, it's a silly costume for an anime con, I don't have to wear it. And just step back, calm yourself a little bit more, and just make it at a time when you're not stressed. You tend to have a lot more fun that way. Or just wear the bits of it that you do have. To be honest, no one cares except you. Oh, that sounded horrible. I'll just keep digging my hole. Right. The other thing, wood glue or PVA glue, you know that school glue they had you use in art all the time? That stuff's really good. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but it's amazing because it's liquid plastic, basically. It has to cure off, but it's a liquid plastic coating for things. It's very strong, it's waterproof, it does all these things, and it glues shit together. Amazing. Right, the other stuff is contact adhesive. I've got to try and describe this one. It's the sort of thing that they won't let you take on a plane, so sorry I couldn't bring some to you. It is a sort of yellow glue which smells really bad. It comes in a tube. It's called contact adhesive because you paint one side of whatever you want to glue and you paint the other side. You wait for both sides to dry for about 5 minutes and then you press together and it instantly adheres. It's much nicer to use for some. Yeah.
It's basically called the same thing in Norwegian.
Contact adhesive.
Contact glue.
Contact glue.
Yeah.
There we go. Contact glue. The simplest thing. Right. It's nicer to use for projects because, unlike a glue gun, you tend to, if you say you're sticking 2 sheets of foam together, if you wait for it to dry for long enough, the glue will be stronger than the foam itself. It doesn't sort of have a bulk to it. Sometimes you see when people glue with glue guns, there's just so much glue, there's sort of like not much armour there. Because you can spread it all over the entire surface, you can carefully position, you won't burn yourself. You can get it all over your hands and that's a bit crappy, you kind of have to just peel it off and lose a layer of skin. Wonderful cosplay things we do. The only thing about contact adhesive is because of the fumes from it, if you use a lot of it all at once, it's very likely to give you a headache and it's not very good for you. I recommend open window. I know that's hard, Norway, so maybe try and do...
Not true, not true.
Maybe try and do this costume stuff you know, in the summer. The other thing you can do, also if you've got any pets, try not to make them high with this stuff. You can buy something called an organic respirator. It is, you know, you get the breathing masks, it's the next step up from that. It's what you use for any truly toxic chemicals if you're working with them in DIY and things like that. The way to tell if an organic breather works correctly is if you put it on and you can't smell the glue anymore, you're safe and then you're fine. You know when to change the filters in them when you start smelling the glue once again. Though I've gotten to the point where actually I can't really smell the glues anymore because I use them a little bit too much, even with an organic breather. That's sort of like when you get into the stage of, you know, early cancer in life kind of thing. So yeah, cool, cosplay. Happy hobby. The other one, super glue. I find the 2-part epoxy glues work much better than the just super glue out the bottle. Though if my sample book's going around, the PVC board, that stuff super glue is almost the only thing that works with it. Hot glue doesn't really work whatsoever. Contact adhesive, still not so good. Super glue works with the PVC foam board. However, super glue also will dissolve most foam materials, so do a test patch on any stuff you're working with first, just to make sure, so you're not like, yeah, it's almost finished, glue, 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 boom, as it hisses through and melts. So, be careful with that, test things out first. Right, some handy tools, here's some pictures. That's what my organic breather looks like. It kind of mounts over my face and sits like that. So that's the craft knife thing. Good scissors, those are great scissors. I buy contact adhesive by the tin. I've got like 6 tins up in my attic just waiting to poison the world. The other thing that's quite useful is disposable gloves. I get the black tattooist gloves because they look cool, and just because they're skin tight, they're really easy to use, and you can get them in different sizes, so you're not wearing like mammoth baggy hands. But the problem is if you're working with glue, glue will stick to the gloves and then they're useless, so I just kind of sacrifice skin on my hands. Stuff I'll be covering. Sorry, I'm going to plow through a lot of this. Swords, big swords. Guns, big guns. Awkward shapes, a little bit on armour and a little bit on jewellery. Trying to cover most of the bases so we can get through things. But before you even start making, get a good picture of what you're trying to make. Don't just be like, yeah, I know what that looks like, and then draw the thing on it upside down. Get a picture there in front of you so you can constantly check back and be like, oh, this bit looks like that. Oh, this bit must, do that thing. Reference images are very important, especially when, as part of cosplay, you're trying to recreate the character. Don't just rely on what you think something looks like. The other thing is, figure out how much it's going to cost you. Nothing sucks worse than halfway through a project being like, actually no, can't afford the rest of this. Figure out what you need to buy, save up for it. It gives you something to like amount to, or because, well, this is more something I do, is if I have to stop a costume about halfway through, I tend to just give up on it, because it's not until about 6 months later I'll probably go back and I'll just go, it's all shit anyway, and then just chuck it out. So yeah, I tend to just sort of like start a project, do a project, finish it, it's done, whatever. But that's just me. So it's a good idea to figure out how much something's going to cost you before you decide to definitely do it. Check the convention rules to make sure you'll be allowed in with it. What's the Banzaicon rules like as far as like massive wings with like knives on them?
Nothing stabby and sharp.
Nothing stabby and sharp. Don't make things that are stabby and sharp. Job done. The other thing you may want to ask is, hey Banzaicon, how high are your doors? I'm going to have like 6-foot wings and they're going to have like guns on them. Also, if you're coming on the train, figure out how the hell you're going to get a prop to the con. The other one is, not sure what this is like in Norway, but a lot of conventions in the UK are in London. I don't really recommend anything which looks like anti-tank weaponry. They're actually... There are many stories about London Expo and cosplayers, because London Expo is held near London City Airport, and a bunch of Helsing cosplayers once did a photo shoot with their anti-aircraft replicas outside London City Airport. It sounds really funny, except they didn't call the police on them, they called the army on them. So yeah, be careful and think about what kind of city you are bringing certain things to, and especially it is a good idea to look into the weapons laws around your country. For example, in the UK, it is illegal to carry a bokken, a wooden sword, from anywhere unless you are going to or from a dojo for a martial arts which you practice. You also can't do the same for nunchucks, because for some reason nunchucks in the UK are really bad. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was censored in the UK because one of the turtles had nunchucks. The other one they can't do in the UK is they tend to edit headbutts out of anime and things like that, because you can like punch someone in the face but you can't, headbutt them. So, and the other one is the UK, we have quite strict gun laws.